For your minimum wage
minimum wage.
is
Yeah,
$25 an hour.
yeah. So you
Wow.
guys and we go, fuck, like it's crazy over there. You
Your
guys don't get,
minimum wage is $25 an hour.
yeah, yeah. Plus superannuation. So
Right.
you get 10% super on top of that.
Hey everyone, it's Mike from landscapebusinesscourse.com, and today we're going to be talking to Andrew Little, who actually lives in Australia. And little known fact, my mom is from Australia, so I've been there before. I have some relatives over there. But today we're going to be talking about P4P. We're going to be talking about contracts. We're going to be talking about minimum wage in Australia, where he's at, is $25 per hour. So don't complain if you're in the US and you're thinking about a $9, $10, $12, $15 per hour minimum wage. $25 per hour is the minimum wage there. So we're going to go jump right into it. How can you implement P4P on a model that needs that high of a minimum wage? And should you be doing contracts? Should you be doing flat pricing? Should you be giving just an hourly rate to your customer and then charging by how long you are there? Those are some of the things we're going to be talking about today. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and talk to Andrew Little from twomanandshovel.com. That's the name of his company. Oh, and one more quick announcement. Next week, Landscape Summit 2021 is going to be taking place. It's all virtual. There's no excuse if you have snow or anything like that. Go to landscapebusinesscourse.com/conference, and we're going to be sending out some goodies. So if you don't get this and like sign up right now, you're probably not going to get it, honestly, because I'm recording this on Monday, and by tonight we have to have registrations in if you're going to get shirts and hats and the stuff we're sending out. So make sure you sign up, even if you don't get the hats and the shirts because you're too late. If it's last minute, I don't care. Sign up. It'll be great. Without any further delay, Andrew Little from Australia. Here we go. Hey, there you are.
Yeah.
Another a fellow Aussie. I can say fellow because I'm half Australian.
Totally.
So.
Cool.
Yeah. My mom she's from Perth.
Oh,
That's where she was born.
yeah. Good one. Yeah, I'm
So.
in Melbourne. So, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, some of my family lives over there. A bunch of my cousins. I've been only there one time, but I love it. I love it there. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's good.
Good stuff, man. You've been kind of following the content for a while because I've seen your name before.
Yeah. I have like I think I found your stuff probably April last year, and
Okay.
I've been smashing it. Like it's been really helpful to the business, and I've implemented like a lot of stuff that you've been putting out there. So yeah, big thanks for that.
Awesome.
But
Very cool. I looked at your website too. I like it a lot. Did you make that recently?
yeah, just got it out like a month ago.
Very cool.
So yeah, so it's going pretty good. But you can probably see in the notes, there's sort of the main thing I want to go on, like sort of talk about today is just how to do it in Australia, the P4P system.
Got it.
Because I don't think anyone's doing it. As far as I'm aware, not like you might have spoken to a few other Aussies about it, I guess. But I've spoken to a couple of top competitors, and they said they've tried stuff like this. It just hasn't worked. The main landscaping coach, I paid like $1,600 for just like a session like this with him, and he just said, no, you just got to do your hourly rate here. You got to do charge hourly rate $60 plus GST per hour. But I just don't see why it wouldn't work here. And like I really want to give it a go. So that's what it's. We've got a higher minimum wage as well. And so that's a big obstacle, I think, potentially as well. So just wanted to hear your thoughts if you had any like ideas about how to go about that.
For sure. From a legal standpoint, because this is the part that I'm not as familiar, is there anything preventing it from happening, or is that not the case?
I don't think so. No, I think not that I can see. Like legally, all we got to do, what we have to do is we have to pay our minimum wage.
Right.
So
Yep.
as long as
Same
we're
thing
paying,
here.
like that's your base rate,
Yep.
And for us, it's around $25 an hour.
For your minimum wage
Minimum wage.
is
Yeah.
$25 an hour.
Yeah. So
Wow.
you guys and we go, fuck, like it's crazy over there. You
Your
guys don't.
minimum wage is $25 an hour.
Yeah. plus superannuation. So
Right.
you get 10% super on top of that. So it's $25 per
It's like
hour.
someone at McDonald's is making $25 an hour.
Not McDonald's. Each industry is different. So the
Oh,
landscaping and gardening award rate is around 25. McDonald's, if you have younger guys, it's cheaper. Like they get paid not much because they've got like 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds,
right.
17-year-olds. So
That's
what I mean,
weird. So they have a minimum wage based upon your industry.
yeah, yeah. Each industry is different. Got a different rate.
Okay, I did not know that. That is new information to me. Okay.
Yeah. So there's that, and what a lot of guys do here is you get apprentices. So I don't know if you guys have apprenticeships over
It's
there.
not as big a deal, but I know in Australia it's a much bigger deal. My cousin is pretty involved with it.
Yeah, yeah. So
And do
yes,
they have to still be at 25 then?
so the apprentices get a lot less. So like an 18-year-old, under 21-year-old first year apprentice, the hourly cost to me is $18.83. So that includes super.
That's the
Um,
weirdest thing, man.
so
That's
that's
expensive.
yeah.
So,
But like I think because like you talking about how you guys, 33%, you get your
mhm.
wage expenses at 33%. Like when I spoke to a landscape coach here, he was kind of alluding to it's almost 50% here, and that's what everyone's doing. But like I was like, how do
Well, with those kind of wages, that makes more sense. Like, but
yeah,
the bottom line is, if someone's paying 50% of labor on a lawn care and a mowing company, almost guarantee you're not having a high margin business. Like, there's no way, right? Because
yeah,
by the time you have overhead, insurance, gas, equipment, all the other stuff, you're not getting 20% profits. That's
yeah,
guaranteed, right?
yeah,
And so, just because everyone else is doing something, honestly, in my mind, is just like, I want to run as far away from it as possible. But at $25 an hour minimum wage, and if 25 is going to be your base pay, like your hourly rate to the customer has to be at least 80 an hour.
yeah,
Like, what do
yeah.
you charge per hour to the customer?
So $60 plus GST. That's like
The going
standard
rate?
for a high end company here. And
Yeah.
that's what you can charge as an hourly rate. But yeah, what I've been sort of thinking is, oh, geez, to ideally set up the flat rate pricing, so where even charging at 70. Like I thought, yeah, it just seems like a big jump to 80,
Yeah.
but that's yeah,
Well, this is the thing. Like when you're on P for P, the
mm,
guys they do move faster and are more efficient, right? And so when you look at a job, for example, say, okay, well that's $60. Okay, so that's one budgeted hour on if you're charging the customer $60 per hour, or it is 0.75 of an hour if you're charging 80. So at the end of the day, for them to hit budgeted time, they got to cut off 15 minutes somehow. And that's why P for P, it can do that.
mm.
But man, at 25 an hour minimum, that is steep. Are you in the course, Andrew? Like, have you seen the training on P for P and everything?
Yeah, yeah. I've
Okay,
seen
okay,
it,
good.
like the whole last year's
Yep.
seminar you did, and like I've seen everything pretty much.
Okay,
So like I've got a good understanding for it all. But what I've come up with, maybe I'll run you through what I've come up with and
go for
see
it.
what you.
Yep, good.
So I feel like the only way to make it work here is we have to utilize the apprentices, so we can get a lower wage.
Yep.
I've got 3 apprentices now, and I've got 2 other full-time staff and 3 apprentices.
Just so I know for context, can you say, hey, you're an apprentice, I'm going to pay you less, or is there a program that you have to go through?
Well, it's basically that. They just get schooling as well, so they get 1 day a week is schooling, and they'll
Mhm.
work with me 4 days, and that's basically it. So all we got to do is, if when we have an apprentice, I've got 3 landscaping apprentices, so I just got to make sure that they're learning what they need to learn. So we don't. I kind of like I'm more of see myself more as a businessy sort of guy than a like actual technician.
Mhm.
So I like sort of keeping things pretty simplified, like you talk about. Um, yeah, but I just got to make sure that they sort of learn some basic paving, turf installation, all that sort of stuff.
Which is going to happen. And too, like if you do open book management too, they're learning business. So like, I'm assuming that's kind of the boxes you have to check to be
Yep.
qualified. Got it. Okay, cool. All right. So you got 3 apprentices now. Keep going. Sorry, I interrupted.
So yeah, so basically the hourly cost for first year young apprentice, 18.83. But then second year it goes up to $22.25, third year 25.67. And then adult apprentices, yeah, there's no discount on them basically. So that's kind of the only way I can see, working a business here and getting the wages down is just getting young guys in. And like instead of doing like you do, your 33% sort of, the guys get 33% of the labor. Here, like maybe I was thinking of setting it up like the apprentices get less, like they have a lesser percentage. Which is it's not fair in many ways. Like I love how you got that hierarchical system and everyone's in the same boat because my best worker is my young apprentice. He's a gun and he gets paid less than anyone else, but he kills it. So
Yeah.
sort of,
But honestly, because honestly, the government's dictating your base pay, right? That's what's happening. And so I wouldn't go against that. I would just have that percentage probably a little bit higher. Like if you did 35 or even 38, even 40, it's going to be better than what you're probably doing now, which is more closer to 50. But I think that would work because you got 1883. As long as you're charging, I would try to get your hourly rate up as your apprentices get older, right? So I'd try to like over the course of the next 3 years, say, okay, we're going to charge 65 this year, 70 next year, and then maybe 75 the year after as your apprentices are getting older. And that way they're still above base pay because you don't want them to hit base pay. That's the bottom line. And that's why I'm skittish is because if they're making even 22 an hour base pay, you want them to be above base pay before all the benefits starts kicking in, right? Of efficiency, damage cases, yellow slips. So, and at the end of the day, you're not going to want to keep them for more than 3 years. You're going to really it's going to force you to simplify your business. Like if I was you, I'd be like simplification would be the main thing because you don't want to have to keep people for 3, 4, 5 years and pay them that much money per hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I guess it's sort of picking like you probably can't see my screen right now, but
I think I can let you share. 1 second. Let me see here. Participants, more, louder, coordinate, co-spinner. Do you have a share button where you can share your screen?
So share screen. Host disabled attendees.
Oh, here you go. Try now. Let's go.
Yep.
He's a Mac user. Let's go.
Yeah. So yeah, this is kind of like my tracking spreadsheet, but at the top here, this is sort of what I'm working with. These are like sort of like what I was like these percentages, like the first year rate for an apprentice, 34%. I was kind of thinking something like that, but maybe I need to move them down a bit. And I guess I just wanted to run it by you to see if you had a simpler idea to do it, but it probably has to be something like this, where a scaled percentage for each.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I don't like having multiple because it just complicates everything, right? It's harder for them to figure out what they're gonna make. It's harder. Like, for example, why should someone get 50% when the guy who's the 34% guy is outworking him, right? That's the part I don't like. And the thing is too, like if you're a first year person, you're probably not going to be, hopefully, you're less efficient than the guy who's worked for 3 or 4 years, right? Like the guy who's worked for 3 or 4 years should be so efficient that he makes an extra 20, 30% on his wages,
Yeah.
right? So, man, that's high. You don't want to go that high. You do not want to go over 40%.
Yeah.
um,
Mm. So like, yeah. Say if I did 40%, so that
mhm.
would be so if we did 80%. And when you say 40% as well, is it 40%? That's not, is that the cost of the employee, or is that 40% that's what the employee receives? Like, you know what I mean? Like the cost of employee includes superannuation, it includes workers' insurance, which for us is another 13%. Do
Got
you
it.
include that stuff or?
We don't include that, right? So like that's would be on top of the 30%. So we
Right,
like payroll tax. That's what we call it,
right.
right? So
Yeah.
what
Okay.
I would do in
Yeah,
that scenario.
what's your sorry mate, what's your like what percentage do you guys have to pay extra for your
We're
employees?
similar to around that, like right. What an employee is going to cost us about 10 to 13% more, depending on the state over here. But it's similar. But we don't tack that onto the employee. Like we don't take that into account on their percentage. We just want it to be as simple as possible for them to understand, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we kind of lean more towards, even though it might be less accurate.
Hmm. Yeah. So well, for us that would be say we're at $25, you know, say the 80%, like what would that be? 30
If it was 80 an hour, is that what you're calculating?
yeah, probably about 80 an hour. Like, yeah.
Well, the thing is this, the only way that they would actually make that percentage of the base pay. So for example, if you're charging $60 per hour to the customer and you're giving the employee 33% of labor revenue, that means they're
Mm,
technically making 20 an hour if they hit budget hours on every job and there's no waste or gaps in between, right?
yeah.
That's why people freak out when I'm like, we charge 80 per hour and then we give 33% of labor revenue to the employees. They're like, oh, that means like you're giving people like 27 an hour. No, no, no. That would be if they were completely efficient, no gaps whatsoever. So that
Mm,
doesn't happen, right?
yeah.
So even if you give 50% or say 40% of 60, you're still looking at they can
20,
make like 25 if they are perfect, if they are
yeah.
perfect. But
Yeah.
there's going to be inefficiencies there, right? So I think if you had first year apprentices, this P for P model would actually work at 40%, no problem. The
Yeah.
problem starts becoming when you become after 2 years. You're going to hit some
Mm,
problems there, right? Because now they're just hitting base pay all the time. Unless you do what you're doing here, where you move the rate up. But honestly, it just seems super artificial because
yeah.
it's no longer like that hierarchy. You know, you start like that's why I hate about places like Australia that do this because you create an instant hierarchy in the company by saying, "Oh, your
Yeah.
first year, your second year, your like your third year guy could be producing half the amount of revenue as your first year guy." You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I would, in my opinion, this is just me, my very capitalistic United States weird perspective. And that is I would allow them to make the decision when they hit 3 years, 4 years. Hey, you can either leave and go do something else, but you're gonna keep getting base pay here probably. And then at
Mm,
some point they're not performing well enough and you have to let them go, which basically means you're probably going to only keep people for 1 or 2 years. But if you look at the average of how long employees stay in an industry, it's usually only that long anyways,
mm, mm,
right? And so, like, if I was you, I wouldn't make the P4P complicated. I'd keep it simple at 40%. Try to
mm.
up your hourly rate to keep some people maybe that second or third year. But I would allow I'd focus 100% on simplification of services so that
Mm.
I'm okay with people only staying a year or two.
Yeah. I guess what I'm going to ask, just like going along with what you're just saying, with
Mhm,
simplifying the services,
mhm,
one obstacle I'm having with switching to flat rate pricing for all my ongoing maintenance is like for the smaller ones, it's easy, but it's kind of like how do you guys handle with the hedge trimming requirements and pruning requirements? Thanks, mate. Um, how do you guys handle all that stuff? Like I've started trying out. because seasonal variations are so difficult, and like, you got to prune your camellias in late October, and then like, I might schedule them on a every 2 months we'll do hedge trimming, but then we might have a bit of dry, might be a bit dry and things aren't growing, and then the client's like, I don't want to trim now, like it just gets messy. I'm finding it really hard to switch to that, and I wanted to know how you guys tackle that.
Yeah, like on P4P, it matters a lot because now the guys are getting paid based upon
Yeah,
that, right? And they're gonna let you know if you're off, right? But the
yeah,
bottom line is like people underestimate how accurate you actually are on your estimates because you've done it for so long. Like if you look at a hedge right now, you have a pretty good idea of how long it's going to take you or how long it should take, right? And there's going to be human error, but because of human error, they're also going to get a job where you have 5 budgeted hours and they do it in 3. So if they're not going to complain about that, they can't complain about the time when you say 5 and it takes them 7. Right. So our goal from an estimator standpoint is that 4 out of 5 jobs are at or below budgeted time. Because if they're beating every single job, it means we're always overestimating the budget hours, right? But if we're always underestimating the budget hours, they're going to freak out, right? So our goal is to try to make it where the majority of the jobs are beating budgeted hours. As long as they have to realize, if they can't realize this, that there's human error, then they shouldn't you probably don't want them working for you if they don't just understand that it's going to be error in terms of the estimator. But at the end of the day, if you're charging hourly for even maintenance on a customer's property, you're charging the customer the hourly rate. I can guarantee you're leaving 20 to 30% of efficiency of the crew that would otherwise have a stop clock, quote unquote, on them of like, hey, you have an hour to do that, instead of, hey, we're getting charged hourly, we don't mind how long you take. And now the boss is really the customer, because they're watching the clock. They're the one seeing how long it takes. And that's uncomfortable for an employee,
Yeah. I was just going to say, are you recording this?
I am. Yeah, I can send it to you after.
Yeah, cool. Great. Yeah, cool. Well, like, it's what I was sort of asking is, how do you set it up with the clients? Like, that's what I'm struggling. I'm working on, like, when I go do a quote to the clients, because they want us to just come, take the garden and just handle it, ongoing. And I'm struggling with trimming and pruning, like trimming the hedges and bushes, and then there's annual pruning stuff.
Yep.
And so, like, a basic idea I'm working on is I go in, I say, hey, do you want the hedges trimmed like every 2 months? You want it really pristine, or do you want it every 3 months to be a little bit shaggier? And then I'll just like tick that box. But it's just what I'm struggling with is it's not that straightforward gardening. Like,
yep. Are you just giving them? Are you giving them an hourly rate and saying, hey, here's the stuff we're going to do, the schedule, and our hourly rate is $60 an hour? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I figured is I give them, with P4P, I'm going to have to give them a price for, I go in, most visits will mow and blow sort of thing and weed. And then maybe every second or third visit, we do all the trimming as well. And so I give them a price on, mowing, blowing and weeding every 4 weeks. And then a price on the trimming every 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And then I schedule it in like that. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But man, I've been grappling with this and having a hard time with it, so selling it to the customers, and because it's not what people do here. It's not what people do here. And I don't know.
So just so I'm clear, when you go to an estimate, you kind of get what they want, and then you say, hey, this is our hourly rate. Is that basically what happens?
No, I want to give them. That's what I used to do, and now I'm trying to give them a flat rate, so a flat price. To say, hey, it's 100. That's me $100 for the mowing, the blowing, and the weeding every 4 weeks, and it's going to be $260 for trimming every 8 weeks.
Okay, so what you're going to do, say for example, I'm going to write this down. Just give me a second. Yep. So let's say, okay, we're going to mow for this person. We're going to do bed. Let's just call it bed maintenance. That could be like weeding, whatever it might be, maintenance. We're going to do bush trimming. And do you guys do anything else besides like fertilization or anything?
Yeah, we do. I'm going to share my screen with you again, and I'll show you our. I basically, you'll recognize this.
Oh yes, let's go.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I've got happening now.
Okay. Perfect. Yep. Okay, cool. All right, that
Yeah.
works. Yeah, that's
I'm going
fine.
to remove this because that's a pain in the ass. I don't know if you can see me highlighting that.
Yep.
That's a pain in the ass.
Okay.
Yeah, but the rest we do.
Yeah. So like, what are you trying? You're just currently trying to go to flat rate though, right? Like, in the past, you just given an hourly rate.
I've been selling more flat rate customers over the last year, and I've probably got about a quarter of our customers are on a flat rate.
Mhm.
Um, but they're only the smaller ones. I'm finding it hard. Anything more than like 2 or 3 hours, I've just quoted the hourly rate because that's
Yep.
another thing I'm struggling with. The bigger ones,
Mhm.
struggling with that. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're going to do on P4P is you're going to create. So for example, let's say we're going to do weekly mowing and it's going to take us an hour. Let's just say, for example, right? Okay, that's going to go on the schedule and that's going to be taken into account on this, sheet, right? We're going to do annual pruning, or if we're going to do it every 3 months or whatever it might be. And then the bottom line is each visit needs to have its budgeted hours, right? For P4P. And then in
Mm.
terms of the monthly price to the customer, you're just simply going to take the hours, the materials, add that all up, divide it by 12 and give them a monthly price, right? If you
Yeah.
want to do a 12-month contract. But really on the back end, you do have to figure out how many hours is it going to take if I trim the bushes 3 times a year, each visit, right? So let's say it's 8 hours. Okay, well, multiply that by 3, that's 24 hours. I keep adding this all up. I get this massive number at the end, divide that by 12. That's the rate that I give to the customers. This is a 12-month contract. Here you go. But then on the back end, you're splitting every single visit up with the hours.
Right. Okay.
And you're already doing the hard work. What you're doing right here, you're doing the hard work of figuring out how many hours are on the trimming, how many hours are on, etc.
So, okay. So, to understand you better, so you give your customers a consistent price every month, but we might do more work 1 month with the guys. They might trim everything. We're not going to charge the customer any extra there. They've got their same price, but I'm divvying up the hours within. Okay, that's so much better. That's a good way of doing it. Yeah. That's what I was struggling with because the clients were getting confused and yeah, that works well. Yeah.
And then I know it's early morning your time there, but last night my time, I posted a video with a 2,400 a month per month contract, and we talked about that.
Oh, cool. Yep.
So feel free to watch that too. But you're exactly right, and that's if you want to do 12-month contracts. If you wanted to do a la carte, where they literally just saw the price for each item, you could do that as well. That could be like, hey, mowing. Okay, we know it's an hour. That's going to be $60. Weeding once a month. That's going to be $40. They could pick that way as well. That's the way we do it locally. But in our market, 12-month contracts are not as popular. In your market, you probably do servicing year round more. It's more level. And so you're going to probably stick to that 12-month contract. But the way that you calculate it is exactly the same.
So it's probably because, is that because you guys just have such a cold winter and because you don't
we don't grow, nothing grows for 3 months, right? So it's hard to keep contracts through that time.
Yeah.
And so we do winter services, we call it, but it's not like we can charge what we would in the summer when we're doing like mulch and all. If someone's full service, right? So if someone's full service, a 12-month contract makes sense, especially in an environment where you are actually trimming throughout the year and like stuff is growing year round.
So you guys literally will divvy up your mowing price, weeding price, trimming hedges price, annual pruning price, and the customers will select which one they want. Because I feel like that would be really, I don't feel like that would be really different here. But with other services here, we do stuff like that in other industries.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, it comes down to a little bit like, is your market, for example, there's some of our franchisees who like only 12-month contracts are sell because like everyone just expects to have a monthly price they pay year round, right? And that works. Literally, it's just a matter of, okay, what are all our hours going to be based upon the schedule of these services? Divide it by 12, there's your monthly rate, right? Yeah. Otherwise, like in our market, people like the fact, and we don't have to do any sort of in-person estimates. We can just look at their property, get all their prices, and then they can kind of choose the ones that they want, right? And then they're only billed when the work is done, right? So in our market, that's what people like. But the 12-month contract, it works with P for P. It's just a matter of doing a little more addition and then dividing it by 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I think the 12-month contract, because I don't lock them. I don't know. I just give them a price, and
A monthly price.
it's a
We're the
monthly
same way.
price.
Like we don't even, it's not really even a contract for us too. It's the same way. Like, hey, here's your monthly price. We're going to get everything done, right? And here's the schedule that we're going to do that on.
Yeah, and like that's selling here so far with the smaller jobs that I'm quoting. It's working, so I'll probably just go with that. Yeah,
I would say it's probably an easier sell. If people are used to an hourly rate, they're going to be more inclined to like a monthly price over what we kind of do mostly in our market locally, and that is a la carte, where like they literally can choose the ones they want. But the bottom line is you got to make sure you're really, really good in your description of each service, when you're going to do it, and the ramifications of them. You can't just be like, oh, we're going to take care of your beds. Oh, we're going to trim your bushes. You've got to get really defined in terms of what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, because
yeah,
now you're basing that estimate based on a specific amount of budgeted hours. And if they deviate from that, like, oh, we put a new hedge in, like, make sure you trim the bushes now. It's like, oh, wait a second. Like, that's going to be more, right? Because that's what's so easy about giving an hourly rate to the customers. Is like, hey, if they give me one work, I just do it,
yeah. Because I'm finding that's happening all the time. Like some customers, I'll quote them and then they'll put even new plants in, and so what you got to then go back and just adjust the price.
Yep.
And
So it
also,
requires a little more verbiage. It requires a little bit more verbiage in your estimate. But what I would do if I was you is kind of put together like a general template of what a 12-month kind of agreement or monthly agreement looks like for full service, and then just change a few things in there, because you will want like 5 subtitles under bush trimming. How often are you going to do it? You're going to haul away the debris. Which bushes are you going to do? Which ones do you not do? Like, are you not going to do the big trees? Being very clear about that, and then stating, even if you need to, like, additional work is going to be charged at this rate, right? That's not encompassed in that estimate. Sorry, I cut you off.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's all right. I was going to say as well, what I've had with a couple of my customers who I have charged this flat rate pricing, then there's sort of, I've done it based on this 4 weeks. Every 4 weeks will come. This is the price. But then they'll say, oh, we're not home this week. You can't come. Can you come back next visit? And they keep just like screwing us around, fill my head in. I don't
Because
have
they're your boss. At the end of the day, if they're paying you hourly, they are your boss.
no, this is not the hourly. These are ones who I've done. I've got a flat rate pricing, so it's not hourly. And they'll say, we're not home. You got to come. Can you come back in 4 weeks' time? And then we come back, and everything's obviously grown a bit more. There's more weeds, and I've just charged the same price. But it's in those situations. Do you have like a cancellation fee or
more money?
Yeah.
You just say, hey, look, as long as you've given the schedule, if they're going to move it 4 weeks, hey, we're now out of our agreement here, and there was more growth, I'm going to have to charge you for that, right?
Yeah.
And if a customer is not going to understand that, you don't want them, right? And they do that one time, and they'll never change schedules on you again. They won't ever say, oh, don't mow today when you show up. They won't do any of that stuff if you just stick to your guns on, hey, like, if we've scheduled and you change that, that's a work change order. Like, we're going to charge more. And if you put, like, for example, on every one of our estimates, it's part of the fine print is, any work that's not included or mentioned in this estimate will be charged at, and then we give a rate.
Yeah. Okay. You give like an hourly rate for extra work.
Yep. So that way you'd probably put $60 there, but that way, if they push you off a month, you don't have to say anything. You don't do anything. You just go do the job, and then whatever you're over budget hours on, you're going to charge that much at $60 per hour.
Okay, so you don't worry about then figuring out what the exact price would be. You charge an hourly rate at that point, extra work.
We don't like to do that. Like, first of all, we never really have the whole push off problem, right? But we have it in our fine print in case it happens. But traditionally, we're going to just tell them, hey, look, like, you have to stick to this, and that's ideally what you do. And if they change something around, We don't ever want to use the hourly rate. We never want to. We would either drop them probably or send it back like if it's a big job, probably send an estimator back a month later, like, hey, your job's completely changed now. But if it's like trimming bushes, for example, and they push us off a month, that's when we might start pushing back in terms of like, hey, we spent way more time because of this. That's a work change order. But honestly, it doesn't happen much. If you just stick to your guns and be like, it's very clear in the verbiage of your estimate, that's where people fall into errors. Like they'll just put mowing or trimming bushes and then an hourly rate. Like, yeah, like there's so much ambiguity there. The customer can push you around. They can tell you when they're going to do it. But if you're telling them when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, what is included, they don't really have much wiggle room.
Yeah. That's what it's just, it's like setting that boundary, it's kind of like that, hey, once you let them get away with it, they keep pushing it until they get away with, more and more.
Yep.
That makes sense. That's really helpful. Cool. That's kind of the like quite a bit of the like, they're the main problems I've had was figuring out how to do P4P without without high minimum wage. So it seems like your advice is just, we just got to charge more. Basically, we just got to get that price up.
Yeah, I think the thing is like a lot of people, because at the end of the day, when you're doing P4P, it's a function of obviously the hourly rate. So if you're able to move the hourly rate up, therefore you can pay your guys more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, well, my customers won't pay $80 an hour. But remember, that's a function of time. It's per hour. Well, if your guys can get more done in an hour, you can charge less budgeted hours. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if I'm charging the customer $60 per hour and it's going to take them 4 hours, it's going to equal $240 to the customer. Right. Now, if I'm charging them $80 per hour, but my guys get done in 3 hours, same price. Right. So at the end of the day, the customer, it doesn't actually affect their price. It's just that our guys got more efficient.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times people on P4P, they get afraid of charging a higher rate, but your guys get more efficient and therefore get the same amount of work done in the same amount of time. Or sorry, the same amount of work done for the same price, I should say.
And I suppose I'm just thinking while you're saying that as well, like one of the main, concerns I think about with doing this is obviously like the guys, will, you're like just trying to get it done quick and you might not go that extra mile. And, we've got a lot of high-end customers and we need it done spot on. Obviously like that yellow slip system's really great. I was just thinking then, like, do you send feedback forms? I thought like maybe to get it started, to get this thing started, do you send like little forms to the customers saying, hey guys, we're just, want to make sure everything's all good. Just send us some feedback on how our performance has been.
Yeah, we have an automation that every 3 months goes to them and asks for survey. And then basically that automation triggers, if they give us a 5-star survey, then it asks them for an online review. That's kind of how our system works. But even if you did it more of a manual standpoint without automations, yes, we are asking for their feedback for that exact reason to kind of keep the guys honest, especially on big full service properties where you can kind of cut corners for a while, right? And so, but especially if you have your crew, like one crew does the job this week and they do all of those services, and then the next week another crew is there or another person, they kind of keep each other honest. Like the quality control is kind of baked into the system because they show up and they're like, this is not weeded last week. Like they're going to tell you, right? And so, and then you can just see in the pattern of P4P, like if there are people that are just skimping on things and going too fast. So it's less of an issue than people usually make it out to be. But.
Yeah, cool. And like, so you haven't had anyone in Australia speaking to you?
Not speaking like this, no, but there's quite a few of the people in the course. There's quite a few, like Australia outside of, I think honestly they beat out Canada in terms of the number of people in the course. But yeah, I've never talked like this. This is great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Well. So I guess like, schedule payment plan. What if clients cancel?
I think like my recommendation with P4P thing would be try, if at all possible, keep the percentage the same. And then simplify your services so much so that like you're not keeping people you don't need them to be super experienced. You can get those apprentices and they be really efficient. That might mean cutting out certain services, but if you're paying $25 base pay, P4P is not going to be very effective because there's not enough upside for them to get excited about, like if someone's making 25 an hour, but their base is 18, they're very incentivized to move fast. But if they know their base pay is 25 and that's comfortable living wages for them, they're not incentivized to work faster on P4P.
Oh, so you're saying like literally have just all apprentices? Like, so you're saying, yeah, like, oh my God, yeah. Okay, well, the thing about that, yeah.
But you can only do that. See, the reason you say that, only way you can do that is if you simplify things, because you're not going to be able to rely on someone to be around for 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. But like you just said, the person who's been around for 5 years literally might be costing twice as much and making the company half as much as the guy who just started.
Well, do you know what? It's not even that. It's what because the guys I have now, I've got Brandon. He's in his second year. He's killing it. I've got Sam who's starting with me. He's in his first year still. I've got Hudson who's just started in his first year. I've got Christian who's been around for 4 years now. He's solid. And I've got Hamish who's been 2 or 3 years. So I think when you say that, it's just a label of the apprentice that's like, oh, we've got only apprentices. Because no one does that. But really, like, it's just this label that they have, and it makes, because I feel like, oh, is that right to have only apprentices? Like, is that right for them? Do they need someone more experienced around? But really,
think about it like this. Like, what if it's fair or not? The thing is, if they're making $18 an hour base pay as a first year apprentice for you, but because you have P4P, they can make 24, 25. Whereas if they go someplace else, they're going to be a first year apprentice anyways, and they're going to make 18.
They'll love it. It's like no one pays them that much. No one pays them that much. Everyone pays them base rate.
But then that sense of entitlement comes when they're the third or fourth year person. They're like, you owe me to pay me 25 an hour. Total different mindset, right?
They'll have to be all under 21 though, because adult apprentices, once you're 21 or over, if you start then it's like they go back to sort of $25 an hour to start with.
That's crazy.
It's kind of
that would be tough. That would be tough. Like 21 and under, that's a tough one. So like when they hit 21, or is it 20 and below?
So they have to start at 20 or below. Like if they, like I started with Brandon, he was 20 years and 8 months. So that's about as late as you can start your apprenticeship. So he's over 21 now. But yeah, so
I still stick by my guns on that. That would be what I would do. But the thing is, if you're going to do more complicated services, hardscaping, in-depth planting, you're probably going to have to pay up, right? But if you want to use P4P and this is the bottom line, you're going to attract the best first-year apprentices of anyone. Every first-year apprentice will want to work for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's no different to how McDonald's operate, or like we've got grilled burgers over here. Like they only have young people,
Yep.
So
it's all about simplification. They have figured out how to make a 15-year-old know how to flip fries and make burgers, right? You don't need a chef. You don't need a chef in there because they've simplified things, right? So
yeah. So yeah, it makes sense. It's just like a big, I don't know.
It's a total change. It's a total change of the business model, But honestly, in my opinion, even your brand of 2-man and a shovel, to me, you're sitting on a ball, aren't you?
Yeah.
The big, yes, let's go. I need to get one here.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, it's good.
What was I gonna say? I totally lost my train of thought. Sorry.
I don't know what you're saying, but I was thinking the challenges there are like I've got one young apprentice, and these other 2 apprentices are adult apprentices. So I took 2 of them on. Our government's right now is paying half of all our apprentices' wages for the next year because of COVID, and they have been all last year. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just get another couple, just because right now they're so subsidised. So that sort of works now, I guess. But how, like, I'm like, yeah, it's how would I get this thing? Because I was hoping to get some sort of P2P thing happening in the next few months. And how would I do it now? I've got Christian. I've got two casual guys and two
Mhm.
adult apprentices, and I've only got one young apprentice.
Yep.
Would I just have to implement it and start it? Do like 40%, raise our wages, and the guys will get paid sometimes. Obviously, the base rate's going to be pretty high, and they might hit base rate a lot, but sometimes they get a performance fee, and that's better than nothing. And
Yep.
I do
That's what I
that.
would do. That's what I would do, right? And the thing is, like yeah, like allow their tenor, how long they're with you, to be the thing that bumps up the base pay, but then keep your percentage the same, right? And that what that basically would do is create more of a meritocracy where a first year guy can make 25. He can on P for P, right? By keeping the percentage the same. And so you're going to attract more of those first year people, but they're cheaper. And again, I truly believe you're going to attract the best people if that's the model you're going to use. And what I was going to say was your brand, in my opinion, leans itself very much to simple services, 2 men and a shovel. What do you guys do? We do maintenance and we do simple services, and we take care of your property, right? Like, it's not like you're doing, 2 men and a arbor or like a wall, like nothing like complicated, right? It's simple. And so that's a different business model. It's completely changing probably the direction you might have been thinking. It might not be the way you want to go, but with that labor rate, I don't see you having a high margin business unless you're charging $100 or more per hour, which is possible if you're going to do really specialized services. It's just which business model do you want to go? You either go more of the McDonald's route, or you go more of the 5-star restaurant that is producing very high prices, but they pay their chefs an exorbitant amount.
Yeah, I'm definitely much more drawn, and I actually like the idea of having a lot of young guys coming in, and I don't know, because I watch. We've got a place called Grilled Burgers here. I don't know if you guys have it there. I think it's Australian, but I always watch them, and they're killing it. They just same. It's the McDonald's type thing, that works for me. So okay. One of the last thing I had, I guess, was, and you probably, like profit sharing. Don't worry about this for now, or
So are you coming to conference in a couple weeks or not?
I think it may as well. I mean, that's probably the only time I can. So I'm in Australia and
Okay.
be there. So
Yeah. So oh yeah, that's a good point.
that's the thing. I was like, great.
We're gonna go into depth a lot there, but the short answer that I would give you now is I would do profit sharing, and I'd do it from day one, because at the end of the day, even if you're not making money, if there's a profit sharing incentive, it gives them incentive to stay, and it encourages them to think about and at least be able to see your numbers. Like if you're not making money, or like you're just kind of taking all the money and growing the business with it, like they'll actually see like, oh, he's not making money hand over fist, and I'm not the one out working while he's just sitting in the car all the time and driving around doing estimates, right? Like they'll actually start to appreciate what you do if you're not making the money. Now, if you're making a bunch of profit, giving them 10% is not going to hurt you. It's only you're going to make more by giving them 10 or 15% or whatever it is to the team than if you were to take all the profits but then not be invested in the company, right? Like the local shop, for example, 30% of the profits go to the team, right? And somebody like, oh my word, that's like a third of your profits. Yeah, but I don't believe I'd be as profitable a business if I wasn't giving a 30% to them, right? And so I would do it from day one, even if you're not making money. And even if you had debt, I'd be saying, hey, look, guys, when we start becoming profitable, here's what's on the table. All of a sudden, you start becoming profitable because they become more efficient, right? So like at the conference, we're going to talk about like P for P is kind of like the foundation. On top of that, you build open book management, which is you sharing the numbers, them actually caring about the numbers. And then the last one is profit sharing. And in that order, kind of building the culture of the business. I feel like you do need to have all three. And that's kind of the order I would recommend it. Like I wouldn't try implementing profit sharing without having P for P. I wouldn't try doing open book management without P4P, right? I would do P4P, open book management, and then profit sharing.
Yeah. So just start with, I'll get the P4P happening. I'll come to your conference, and obviously you're gonna go into depth about it then. And then
because like you can't do profit sharing if you're not going to share the numbers, because otherwise they just think you're pulling numbers out of thin air, right? If you're not going to show them your P&L, show them the expenses, and you're like, hey, I'm going to give everyone a percentage of profit, and then you just give them a bonus check at the end of the quarter, for example, like they don't have any correlation between what they do on a daily basis and that check they just got. But if you're showing them the numbers, so, okay, guys, we bought this truck that kind of hurt us on this month. We spent some more money on advertising, or we had a big damage case, like that really hurt us. They start to actually think like an owner, right? And that's really the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's obviously with that, like you pay yourself your wage as the owner, you get your wage, and then after that,
exactly,
you divvy out the profits. Yeah. Too good. All right. That's kind of it. So I guess just to go over it again, I know we've sort of run out of time now, but so for now, like I like the idea of I'll have a good think about it though, but attracting young talent, young guys in. For now, we're just going to have to do, the base rate's going to have to be 25 an hour, because that's what I've got. It's the guys, and there might be, I'll start with P2P, but most of the time they might hit base rate. That's just how it's going to be until I get the apprentices in, basically. Yeah.
You could like, this is an easy sell for the guys. Now, look, your base pay is going to be what's mandated by your apprenticeship or adult later, whatever you are. But then P4P is a percentage, and if you can beat that, you can make more. Like that's easy sell for them because there's only upside, right?
I think what I'm sorry to cut you off. I was thinking, if I have to keep my apprentices now, I wouldn't want to start paying my young apprentices now that base rate, because I don't know, like they're not.
Oh, you're already above that. I got you. You're already paying above that.
That's what's saved me right now, having the young guys in that I am paying only a little bit. So what I was originally going to do is staggering, like give the apprentices a lower base rate than the other guys until I've got only apprentices, and then change it. Like that's the best thing I can think of.
I think that'd be fine. I think it'd be fine. What's going to happen over time is as they get more experience and become more costly, they're not going to, P4P becomes ineffective. And that's what I don't like, right? Because they just keep hitting base pay all the time. You eliminated all benefit of P4P. But again, the person who's actually going to be efficient on P4P is that first year guy that would otherwise make 1883, having the opportunity to make 25. Right. And I truly believe because you will do that over any other competition, you will attract the best people. Yes, they're young, but you will attract the cream of the crop because they have that opportunity to make $25. And in between going to high school and college or whatever it is, you're going to get the best people.
Yeah. And I'll just have to make sure, I'm marketing and I'm getting in front of them, finding out how to get in front of all the best young people. And as long as I get in front of them and I offer them what I've got, they'll be like, well, this is better than the other guys. So,
you get a couple of apprentices that are first time years and, local, they know everyone in town or whatever. They come to your place and they're making 24, 25 an hour and all their friends are making 18. I promise you're going to have a lot of applications, right?
And it'll be easy as well, actually, I just realized, because if I get in with the TAFEs, the TAFE is the apprentices go to a TAFE to study. So if I form a close contact with them and they know how I operate with the young guys, that's how it'll work. Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Well, hey, let me know how it works out. Like, I know that's a very interesting situation there. So I kind of learned something too about the whole apprenticeship program and the fact that, my goodness, $25 an hour for minimum wage. I thought we were bad at 15, so it's not so bad.
No, like we look at you guys, we go, wow, like it's sort of tough for some people, minimum wage over there. So yeah.
Oh man. Cool. Well, hey, I appreciate it, Andrew. I'll send you a recording. I know Josh is going to ask you once he sees this one. Can he use pieces of this or not? Totally fine either way.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, cool. I think it'll help some people, especially if they're in Australia. It will hopefully help some people because I don't talk about this for sure at all.
Yeah. So, I love that. Good.
Cool. I appreciate it, Andrew. You have a good day.
Thank you so much, Mike. Cheers, mate.
Take care. Bye-bye.